Hey everyone, so my name is Cece. I lead our work in North Carolina. I'm part of our We German Black program. I go by she, her pronouns. I've been with NDWA for the past 3 years, and I'm really excited to be sharing space with a lot of you. I haven't shared space with a lot of the folks who are on this call, so it's really exciting for us to be coming together to talk about this Bill of Rights. And I wanted to get us started off by going into a little bit about what NDWA is, who we are, what we're fighting for. And it sounds like a lot of folks here are from the affiliate chapters and folks who have been building with NDWA. You know, we might have folks who are newer, folks who are older and more seasoned, but just want to take a second to ground us all in, you know, why we're here today, basically. And so in order for us to get started, I know there's people, maybe there's some people who've been around from the beginning, but I wanted to throw a question out there to see, you know, what kind of information folks have. So the question I have is, when was NDWA founded? How many organizations came together, and where was it founded? So you can just drop that in the chat. You don't have to say that out loud. You can just drop that in the chat if folks have an idea about that. Anybody? Okay, so I see Start in New York, 5-4. So yeah, a lot of what folks are saying are talking about the work of NDWA and the work that's led up to the formation of NDWA. I wanted to ground us in starting with the point where NDWA started to be labeled as the National Domestic Workers Alliance, and that actually happened in 2007. So you all are right, you know, there was a lot of domestic worker organizing and movement building that started in places like New York and other orgs who started way before the formation. But we had a founding Congress of 13 organizations in 2007 in Atlanta, which we like to talk about as, you know, a really historic place for domestic worker organizing, at the US Social Forum, which was a large gathering of tens of thousands of people coming together to promote grassroots movement and also creating a better world for folks who are doing this type of work and for the folks that they fight for. So, you know, as I said, those 13 organizations that came together were based in 4 different cities and had a long history of organizing at that moment. And it was in 2007 at the Social Forum where they came together and said, our work is amplified together, stronger together, and that we really think that building a national movement that's coordinated, that's united, will really serve the folks that we're serving. And so we know NDWA as the leading voice for fairness and improving rights for folks who are doing childcare, nannies, house cleaners, home care and direct care workers. And we know that the work is still continuing and has a long, long legacy. And so since those 13 came together in 2007, 12 years later, we know 12 years is not a long time for movement building. And, you know, it's a relatively short period in the span of domestic worker organizing, but we've grown a lot and we've made huge strides in that time. We've grown to over 65 local chapters and affiliates, and plus thousands of domestic workers in those locations where there are chapters and affiliates, but also through our national membership. So in those 12 years, we have taken a multifaceted approach to really addressing the varied challenges of household and care workers. Through the chapters and affiliates, we've invested in research. We really invested in leadership development in order to skill up workers to sustain our movement, sustain the campaigns that we run. Really invested in workforce development so that folks have the skills that they need on the job in order to provide quality care. Legal and enforcement work, which is really important for the rights that domestic workers do have so that they can exercise that and also have recourse if those rights are violated. We've run strategic campaigns as well as made critical interventions in the ways that technology is increasingly impacting the workforce. And a huge part of that work has been our policy and legislative work to impact the rights and conditions of workers, not only on the job, but also in workers' personal lives through our work for immigration reform, to address human trafficking and other life-affirming work that we do. And we know that the history of domestic work has been one of exclusion. And so the reason that we do that policy work is in order for us to address that and be able to create a better future for folks who are in these fields. And one of the strategies, as we're talking today, has been passing Bill of Rights. So our Bill of Rights strategies have happened in many states. We've worked very hard with organizations in our network in order to pass those Bill of Rights. They've happened in Oregon, in California, in Connecticut, Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, and most recently in Seattle, and hopefully we'll have Philly in the fall. But those have been fights that, you know, we've really thrown down. Those have been fights that have happened over the past decade, and I think it's incredible that we've been able to see such improvements in those states that we've been throwing down with. And we also know that it's time for all workers to have the rights that are afforded by the Bill of Rights. Places like North Carolina, where I work, places like Georgia, and other places where it's not politically viable to pass a Bill of Rights on a state level, we've needed to start to think about, you know, how do we raise the floor for all workers, and how do we make sure that as much work as we've done in individual states, that work is felt across the country. And so a national federal Bill of Rights is one way that we're addressing that. And I, for one, are very excited about it. I think that having us come together and actually have standardized conditions and agreements across the field is really important. And that folks recognize and visibilize the struggles that domestic workers face, and that just becomes a national conversation instead of one that's just siloed into individual states. And so that's part of the reason that we're here today, to really throw down behind this National Bill of Rights that is really landmark and has been shaped by our members. And so for the rest of the training, we're going to really talk about what that exclusion that domestic workers have faced has looked like, some of the labor laws that have impacted domestic workers, and how we're going to take action and how we're going to fight and make this Bill of Rights a possibility and make sure that we win this Bill of Rights. And so I want to kick it over to M.A., who's going to talk about the laws that domestic workers have been excluded from historically.
Great. Thank you so much, Cece.